While I was still recovering from the insanity of that Minecraft movie and all that craziness, it turns out Glitch Studios has already released their new animated series, which, if you'll allow me to say, is one of the strangest, insanely detailed, atmospheric, and absolutely mind-blowing projects I've seen. Sometimes it's hard to believe this is indie web animation. Guys, this cartoon is soaked in Bioshock, Fallout, and Bloodborne at its very core. And the visual style makes massive references to that legendary philosophical film, 9. So, let me introduce you to the Gaslight District. I mean, I knew that after Glitch Studio finished Murder Drones, they had to give us something new to get excited about. All those announcements, teasers, and everything else had already started circulating, and I mentioned the studio's whole history in a recent video, but this is beyond imagination. And honestly, most of my words can't even begin to describe the visual screaming you're seeing on your screens right now. But will the Gaslight District overshadow the colossal popularity of Amazing Digital Circus? I'm sorry, but I seriously doubt it, and there are reasons why. Not just because beating the circus is practically impossible. The problem, strangely enough, is actually in the quality of the Gaslight District. We might truly be witnessing a situation where a cartoon is so good that it's too good, and these extremes will turn people away. Not everyone, of course, but I find it hard to believe it'll hit hundreds of millions of views. So let's take a closer look at this masterpiece. Of course, some of the things I'm about to say might sound a bit harsh, but remember one thing, this cartoon is genuinely good. The problem is, I'm kind of a pessimist. I've seen way too many great projects get cancelled or abandoned for no reason. So if it ever feels like I'm going too far, please let me know in the comments. I'm just a little emotional right now after watching this crazy, fascinating show. Pause, I'll remind you to smash that like button and hit the bell so YouTube doesn't bury us. Now get ready to not be blinded by the Gaslight District. Imagine a Fallout world, but one with only ghouls. Immortal ghouls. But they didn't become immortal because of some magically explained radiation. It was directly because of some kind of magic, because of some unknown black hand. And the normal world isn't just a wasteland, it's like hell or purgatory. At the same time, there's also heaven, populated by angels, except they don't look like angels, but like vultures or crows. At least they spared us the bird boobs, but still. And this has been going on for countless millennia, and everything hinges on some mysterious prophecy that says the immortality of these people, who are more like zombies or ghouls from the already mentioned Fallout, that they could lose it if a real human is born. But this human must be born from an angel's egg, and the main heroine of the series is exactly that kind of human who was born from an angel's egg. But as you might guess, our ghoul zombie people didn't lose their immortality, and the whole premise revolves around her actively hiding that she's human. Kind of like Johnny from Hotel Transylvania in the first part. The main action begins. I won't describe everything because I want you to watch the cartoon yourself, but let's follow the basic plot. It starts with a chase where several characters in a car are chasing a guy named Jack. At the climax of the chase, before they catch him, he tries to shout out that the main heroine Mel is actually human. Her adoptive father, Kin the Butcher, and his loyal assistant, Breadhead, as well as Mud, more like slime judging by his appearance, grab Jack and send him to get cemented. A procedure where victims are drowned in cement in the ocean, but due to the immortality of the local residents, they continue to exist there. Then the action moves to the Whale Belly Butcher Shop, where there's a conversation between the main heroine, whose name, by the way, is hard to remember because of the fast pacing, and her adoptive father, Ken the Butcher. We learn that one of the dishwashers saw the girl bleeding black blood from her nose, in typical anime style from reading an adult magazine. Since he blabbed about it to the waitresses and some other worker, the butcher sent them all to cement. It becomes clear this isn't the first time someone has discovered the heroine's secret and ended up at the bottom of the ocean. The main heroine is part of a gang called the Smiling Dead, with whom she decides to steal an angel egg from Paradise Lost, passing it off as a human egg to divert attention from her own human nature. And the whole segment with the attempt to break into Paradise Lost, pass through the local gates of God from Full Metal Alchemist, sneak past divine robots. Is this ultra kill? Oh, and the entire scene with confronting the local crow-like angels. Basically, it's action, action, action. What's truly surprising is that this is just the first episode, and the series often creates scenes where we're supposed to empathize with the characters, although, well, we barely know them, and their world and life situations are as far from human as possible. The only familiar dynamic from our typical world is the relationship between the adoptive father and the unruly daughter trying to express herself. These are literally the only ones you'll probably connect with emotionally. But again, apart from the fact that the torture of immortals here is quite frightening as the price of mission failure, but otherwise we're not yet ready to empathize with the heroes. During the public ceremony of destroying the human egg, their deception is revealed, and the entire gang finds itself in danger. In the final scene, the narrator delivers an ominous line about how everything eventually rises to the surface, and we see a butcher's hook on a rope approaching the cemented dishwasher in the ocean depths, which will probably pull him back to the surface, where he can tell the truth about the main heroine. You know what the biggest problem with the district is? The problem is how it begins. You might really get the impression that the project's creator is incredibly afraid that this is his only chance to have such a project. No Netflix or Disney would give someone free rein to create anarchy with corpses, an upside-down city of immortal ghouls, Bloodborne-style crow angels, and a whole horde of incredible phantasmagoria, inspired by tons of games and other works. Only Glitch Studios can just give you the opportunity, like, make whatever cartoon you want. And it's just as if afraid that today's TikTok generation of animation viewers can't hold their attention for longer than 3 freaking seconds. Because of this, the first 4 minutes of the cartoon, the most important minutes for deciding whether you want to watch more or skip it. The cartoon gives us exposition through a narrator for 3 minutes, and it looks like they shoved a damn trailer into the cartoon itself. What happened to the most important truth of film language? Show, don't tell! This makes me incredibly sad because I'm sure that because of the crazy timing, these incredibly detailed models flashed in all possible poses, changing every second as if for TikTok brain rot. It can literally make your eyes hurt. And such an approach to starting a cartoon with such a complex style, in such a unique setting where everything needs to be presented smoothly, is just wrong. Your eyes and brain melt. I watched the first episode not alone, but with a friend, and neither of us could understand what was happening in the cartoon until 17 minutes in. You literally have to consume the cartoon first, digest it, and only then understand why you were even watching and what you learned. And tell me, is that how a show should begin? In other words, afraid that we wouldn't like the cartoon, the authors crammed everything they could into the first 4 minutes. Exposition, narrator, unique characters with detailed visuals and cool animation, fights and crazy grimaces, and a new waifu with amazing hips for everyone to draw for Rule 34. However, when so many things are dumped on you like quality but still ground meat, what are you supposed to grab onto? Don't get me wrong, I know I'll continue following the series because we're probably looking at a project better than Murder Drones, likely with religious and philosophical motifs. But how many people who got hooked on the Circus will be able to continue watching? Remember how the previous 2 Glitch animations started? Murder Drones and Digital Circus. The Circus greeted us like a typical sitcom episode, with main characters facing challenges from the local host, Kane. And our main heroine suddenly appeared, knowing nothing, just like us viewers, and through her, we learned and understood everything without overloading our little brains. With drones, the exposition was a bit more complicated. There was the human-caused cataclysm and sci-fi elements, but we had the main heroine Uzi, who in that same episode encountered demon drones for the first time and met the second main character, N. And from their meeting, you could say a sensible storyline began. But the Gaslight District, it emanates a whole flood of ideas that it could incredibly develop. The animators and artists worked harder than you can imagine. This is one of the most beautifully conceived works on YouTube. But because of the excess of everything, it's completely unclear where to start. What's the story even about? After the first episode, you really feel like you're in the middle of the story, or even at the end of some season. That's exactly why I'm incredibly sad, and I definitely don't want this because I want to review this series and follow it. But I'm more than sure that the Gaslight District won't reach even half the popularity of the Circus. Of course, I'll be very happy to be wrong. Remember how I once thought Murder Drones wouldn't get a full series because it was made by Liam Vickers, but it turned out differently. However, all my subsequent predictions of success have more than come true. And let's all hope that I'm wrong, and the Gaslight District will at least be successful enough for Glitch Studios to continue this interesting but currently extremely confusing story. However, there are other things that are, mildly speaking, annoying. About the project's features, Gaslight District somewhat resembles the cartoon Real Monsters, primarily in its aesthetics of repulsive grossness and grotesque characters. Both series use deliberately disgusting visual style, abundance of details related to bodily fluids, decay, and ugliness. Ew! Like in Real Monsters, the creators of Gaslight District emphasize the physiological aspects of their characters. Pus, slime, falling off body parts. The series clearly falls into the trend set by projects like Has-Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss, exploring the idea of inverted cosmology, heaven presented as a dictatorial regime with nasty angels, while Hell's inhabitants, despite all their flaws, are shown as more sympathetic and relatable to the viewer. However, Gaslight District shares their problem. Its characters, like the heroes of the mentioned series, don't inspire sympathy. They're all rather repulsive freaks, ready to literally devour each other, which they basically do in the plot. So it's the same old stuff as in the annoying Has-Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss. And just like there, if the author wanted to show off and laugh at the Christian dichotomy of good and evil, he's doing a poor job, since the inhabitants of Hell Purgatory don't qualify as good people. They're all freaks ready to devour each other and literally eating each other. Which, by the way, isn't very clear how it connects with the immortality of people who aren't really people anymore. Why throw the dishwasher and waitresses into the sea instead of dismembering, freezing, and then eating them, like they do with flies? Which, by the way, it's unclear who or what they are. And why? Are they also people, some spawn of the local Beelzebub, or what? And if even eating doesn't kill the local inhabitants, then why did the main heroine's adoptive father eat the brain of that scientist from heaven who helped the main heroine hatch from the angel egg? Will he poop him out later and he'll reassemble piece by piece? Or will he respawn in heaven? Or how does it work anyway? However, most of these facts can be attributed to it being just the first episode, and everything else will be explained in future episodes. Yes, yes, yes. We could also remember Jimmy Two Shoes, Disney's Has-Been Hotel before Has-Been Hotel, where an ordinary guy lives in hell, friends with the fat son of the local Satan, an archetype reminiscent of a screw-up like Pierre Bezukhov, except unlike him, completely unburdened by intellect and lamentations about his lot in this life or non-life. But it all comes down to the same thing, including in cases where Hell's spawn are replaced by aliens or someone else. Humans are evil, non-humans are good, etc. This is clearly xenomorph propaganda. The Emperor would not approve. For something more recent, it somewhat resembles in its puppet-like quality the more forgotten and overcomplicated film with deep, deep meanings, 9, where the local Skynet destroyed all humans, and the scientist who created it split his soul into many fragments, which ended up trapped in tiny dolls. Considering that in the world of the Gaslight District, some kind of apocalypse happened, and now angels are waiting for the birth of a human. And although this is our main heroine, and she will somehow change the world and cancel all this chthonic chaos, I generally recommend taking a closer look. It's not particularly clear, though. Why make grossness detailed not in places like in SpongeBob or Ren and Stimpy with one long extended frame, but everywhere? I doubt anyone will pause every few seconds to see how a 3D modeler drew pimples and pus on a model, and how light physico-realistically partially disperses through drops of pus. In dynamics, this is simply not visible, and in places too repulsive. However, videos of people popping pimples, or even performing open surgeries on YouTube, are popular, and don't get taken down as they fall into educational material categories alongside naked yoga and bikini zone shaving by busty hotties. So maybe they're counting on the grossness being attractive. However, if we sum it all up, the pilot episode simultaneously hooks you, but also repels sometimes for the same reasons it hooks you. Yes, the Gaslight District is truly a paradoxical show. The creators wanted to cram everything in at once, apparently afraid they might not get to make a continuation and would end there. But in trying to tell everything, they told nothing. And despite the fact that I noted the theme isn't new and is overused, but what is new under the sun? Nothing. Everything has been retold in one form or another millennia ago. The series still has many interesting small details that make it stand out. The number of homages from games Particularly the Soulsborne series is so obvious. And for web animation, this visual style, with details and homage to puppet animation, or even to the recent Ninja Turtles movie with its unique visual style. Let me remind you, the Gaslight District is made by an indie studio, founded by two acrobatic brothers who, in JoJo style, managed to make such beautiful series opposing Disney. I wouldn't be surprised if the district easily gets on Netflix through a contract like the Circus already did. But the problem is that the flow of information is so dense and fast that you don't even have time to get used to it, and therefore, mixing into a mess, it leaves only a coating of having seen it all before. And what's scariest for any product, the first episode that should entice you to watch the whole season, and potentially seasons, leaves you with no emotions. You just don't care. No anger, no boredom, no interest or pleasure. It seems like you watched something, but it also seems like time was just wasted on nothing. However, having explained in detail why some of you might have such emotions, I'll hope that the show can overcome this first episode trial, and future episodes will more evenly immerse us in this amazing world and its setting, and will become attached to the heroes over time. After all, even with Finn and Jake, I didn't get attached with just the first episode where they were resurrecting candy corpses. Those guys didn't even bother about the setting, the world, the deep thoughts of the characters. All that came with time, and the same might happen here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more animated insanity.